Hello everyone, Amber back with another Mission Impossible episode review. This time I'm reviewing Season 3, Episode 12, which is called The Exchange. So there's no instructions in this one. We start right away with action in a foreign country. Presumably, as we're going to find out, we're in East Berlin. Officers Rollin and Jim head into a guarded building where Cinnamon is already present, and they wait in a courtyard, watching an upstairs window. Cinnamon picks a lock on a door, carefully opens a window, and sees the two waiting. She creates a short between some wires. She's able to open a safe, find a document, and take some pictures. Unfortunately, a pigeon at the window sets off an alarm, and Cinnamon is barely able to throw the film to Jim, who needs a rescue from Rollin, but the two manage to escape. Cinnamon, though, does not. Jim is distraught at the situation, and the others leave him alone to think of what to do next. The team makes a dummy of a captured agent named Rudolph Kurtz in an effort to make the titular exchange of the episode. Jim makes it clear that they must get the vital information he knows, or else no exchange. And there's talk of whether they can break Kurtz before Colonel Strom can break Cinnamon. Strom questions Cinnamon in a special chair that monitors her vital signs. She claims that she's just a mercenary. She's just paid to do a job and find the film and take pictures and toss the film to someone waiting for it. During questioning, it becomes clear to Dr. Gorin, who's monitoring her, that she is afraid of close confinement. And the colonel orders him to use whatever techniques he must in order to get the job done and find out what she knows and who she is. Jim and Barney drive a car over the border with a tape recorder, tracing a route that they will need to take later. Jim visits Strom, wanting to negotiate for the release of Louisa, who Cinnamon claims to be, by offering tons of money for her. He's able to take some pictures with a camera hidden in his lighter of the colonel's office. And when Strom rejects the offer of money, he says he can exchange her for Rudolph Kurtz, who the colonel definitely wants, and the colonel agrees to make the exchange at dawn. Wheelchair-bound Rollin visits Kurtz, giving him a spy-speak code to communicate, even though the room is bugged. They continue to talk for the benefit of the guard, as Rollin motions to him to get the dummy out of his wheelchair, and they inflate it. Kurtz hides under the wheelchair as Rollin calls the guard to depart. Cinnamon desperately tries to dig her way out of her cell somehow, using her shoes and whatever else possible to remove latches and screws. And then at one point the roof starts to come down on her, causing a fit of claustrophobia. She manages to get the screws off a vent, but in a frightening sequence has the walls come down around her on both sides, encasing her in a tiny space. At the warehouse, Kurtz is taken out of the wheelchair. He's told he's near the border and will have to take the next part of his journey in a box for concealment. The IMF then puts the box on an apparatus that simulates a moving and shaking of a truck, complete with the tape recording of the trip. Cinnamon wakes up in the regular cell, desperately asking for help. Strom talks to her, and she hears Jim's voice calling to her, asking who she is and who he is. She won't say who she is because of her training, but she calls him Jim. She stops short of saying his last name or who they work for and falls unconscious from shock. Storm orders Gorin to get her awake immediately, despite the fact that more drugs might kill her. Kurtz is taken out of the box in a room resembling Strom's office, and Jim introduced himself as Colonel Geist, welcoming him home. Jim indicates he can go home as soon as he is debriefed, but Kurtz says he will report only to Strom. Jim shows him that Strom was outed as an enemy agent and shot himself last week. Rollin arrives, telling him that Strom was the one who let Kurtz remain captured, and they need to be sure that Kurtz was not involved in the treason himself. Kurtz asks to see the file on Strom, ticking Jim and Rollin off because of the delay. Finally, Kurtz relents and starts talking. When he's done, Jim tosses a tape to a suddenly ambulatory Rollin, and Kurtz is shown the depths of the IMF's trickery. But they say he'll be home soon as part of the exchange, and they would all be quite dumb to admit that Kurtz has told what he knows. Strom tries to delay the exchange, but Jim will have none of it, showing him a picture of Kurtz with Willie as proof that they have him. And they arrange to meet at what I presume is an East Berlin crossing. Strom and Cinnamon, Jim and Kurtz, no one else. Strom agrees and fortunately tells Gorin to stop trying to get Cinnamon to talk. The time comes for the exchange, and as it begins, West Berlin police approach Rollin about the trickery, and he gives them half of the information Kurtz provided, saying they'll get the other half when Cinnamon is safe. Jim warns Kurtz to keep quiet, and the exchange is made, but as he heads away, Strom fires at Jim and Cinnamon with a submachine gun. Fortunately, Barney handed Jim coats with bulletproof vests, expecting this kind of trickery, and the IMF walks away. Mission accomplished. I'm going to give this episode a grade of A. It really touches off all of the bases. I'm not a huge fan of these stories that start out with this whole, hardcore spy sort of opening. I don't know why, but this one is fine. It's okay. It starts the plot, and then the whole plot does get much better and cerebral, and you have to think about it, and you really have to follow along. So I don't really have too much of a problem with that. That part is just fine. What's really good here, so many little things. I really like the IMF techniques. The simulated voyage, the fantastic voyage, I guess you would call it, of Rudolf Kurtz, to get the information out of him by making him believe that he's come home and, now it's time to, move on. That part was really neat, well designed, well engineered, well thought out, and good to watch. The guest stars in general, Will Kulava as Kurtz, I really like him. He's a very frequent guest star, and this is something about him that I really like. John Vernon as Colonel Strom. You cannot have a bad episode with John Vernon, right? Even if you get a really not so great script, you're still going to have, you'll be entertained if John Vernon is on your screen. And Robert Ellenstein as Dr. Gorn is the icing on the cake. Same deal with him. You can't really have a bad episode with Robert Ellenstein in it. The teamwork here is really excellent. Obviously, this cannot be a Power 5 episode because of where Cinnamon is, but I like the way that the team works together to get the job done. The IMF has to outthink their opponents, and they have to get the job done on the fly, which is good. A little bit of improv along the way, it makes an episode perfect. Just having to think on their feet. If everything is pre-planned and you're just going through the steps, a lot of the time it's just very obvious. So you just have to be ready, to just be able to say, hey, wait, stop, and just think, and that sort of thing is very nice to see. Getting to the big one for me, Barbara Bain's performance here, dealing with being a prisoner the way that she is. I mentioned in The Heir Apparent that that is Barbara Bain's finest hour on this show. I do firmly believe that, but if you want to give this one a 1B, you'll get no argument from me. I would say this. Barbara Bain actually does suffer from claustrophobia in real life. Okay, I do too. And when I was watching this again, I remembered the part about Cinnamon crawling through that vent and trying to get out of her cell. That part I remembered. What I didn't remember was the part where the walls come down on her on both sides. I remember it only coming down on one side and her being freaked, and then her going to the other side, and then that wall came down and her being freaked again. When they both came down at the same time, I basically, screamed for a second too, because that affects me as well, and I could feel the terror. So you could look at it kind of both ways as to whether her performance here is better than The Heir Apparent. My only comment is, here, she's not acting. Okay? In The Heir Apparent, she's acting, and that's a fantastic acting job. This is real life coming through. So, it's a matter of taste, really, of which one you prefer in terms of saying, calling it an acting job. But seriously, this isn't acting. And, I applaud the guts that somebody would have to put themselves through this for the sake of their craft. It's just tremendous. This is not something that one would do just for a paycheck or anything like that. This is for the love of the game, so to speak. And those scenes are really, really, yeah, they were a little tough for me to watch, just because, like I said, I suffer from it too. Um, with all that good, you may ask, why do I give it a grade of A rather than an A+? I have only one flaw to point out about this episode. I do consider it to be a significant one, unfortunately. Right at the beginning of the episode, when Cinnamon is preparing to pass the film to Jim and Rollin, she opens the window before she's ready to toss them the film. That's a flaw, and I'm sorry, that's a pretty big one, actually. She should have, and could have, if it had been written that way, to open the safe, get the film, and then open the window. And then there wouldn't have been that much of a problem. There still could have been an alarm that went off. Like they show a series of lights, so I guess it's a photoelectric alarm. And when she opens the window, she does it very, very, very carefully to not set off the alarm. But they could have done something else. There could have been an alarm that maybe they didn't know about. The pigeon could have come by right at that moment. But to have it work that way, where it's almost telegraphed that, oh my gosh, the pigeon's sitting there, something's going to happen, that to me was a big flaw. The writers may have felt it necessary to kind of get this episode off. I guess it might have been tough to basically film it so that something happened at exactly the time that it needed to. Yeah, but I think it just would have been so much better had that not happened, because as soon as I saw that again, I was like, oh my God, yeah, that's right. She opened the window first and just set all of this in motion, which is kind of a shame. So that brings it down just from an A+ to an A, in my opinion. Anyway, that's what I thought. I know that this is one of the finest episodes of Mission ever produced. There's no doubt about that. I'm just pointing that out as a flaw that I saw. That's about it. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. Please like this episode. Please subscribe to my channel. And please leave your comments. I appreciate them always. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time.